They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed. Disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight on Rogueways, we get to run through the mysteries of the universe with a longtime experiencer of out-of-body phenomenon, psychicness, and more. With these experiences and his love of sci-fi and comic books propelled him into a life of study of the paranormal and the highly strange, where he now writes his own stories and hosts many a show alongside some of the greats in the community. Jonathan Womack, welcome to Rogueways, and how are you doing tonight?
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm so excited about this show because you have such great experiences that you've had in life, and you also have these your professional experiences as well, and we get to hear about these Annunaki things in Utah, so I'm very excited. And I just want to mention and remind to everybody out there listening, I am now on Spotify. I didn't know it was that easy to be on Spotify, and that all I had to do was click a few buttons, so I should have been on Spotify for the past 3 years, and I haven't been, but I am now. So if that was ever something you wished was going on, it's going on now. And the new book is available, Key of Transformational Healing. If you want to buy it from me, you get a little inscription. You can get it from the site at rogueways.org or anywhere where books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, whatever you like. So back to you, Jonathan. The pointless question of the episode is, what is your favorite thing about spring?
Favorite thing about spring is the return of all the greenery. It's very green in New England. And I'm reminded of that whenever my family visits from out west, from Arizona and Colorado and Wyoming. One of the first things they say is, look at all the trees. Oh my God, it's so green. It's so green here. It never gets old. It's just lots of beautiful trees. I live by a lake with islands. You can go camping out there. And so, yeah, spring is good times.
I love it. You're making me heartsick for Washington State, where we were just talking about I used to live, and it's also quite green, especially in the springtime. And here in Colorado, it's still kind of gray. The green is coming back, but it's not really arrived yet, and it probably won't be for another month. So I'm a little bit jealous now too. I might have to come visit. But I want to hear, were you always in that area? Did you grow up there? What was your childhood like?
No, I grew up among the cornfields of northern Indiana. Small town, just very Americana sort of upbringing. And I moved to the Boston area in January 1st of 1983 for work, and I've been here ever since. So I was just telling you before the show that this Annunaki research has hit me so hard that I'm going to move out to that area, to Grand Junction, Colorado, which is the closest city, so that I can, I'm going to buy an RV and some drones and cameras. And I'm going to spend, the rest of my years studying this area in earnest. And there's so much there that is mind-blowing, and it's got to come out. It's time.
I am so excited about this. Also, just the idea of like selling everything, leaving it behind, and getting in an RV is like very much exciting for me. I just did that a few years ago in my van and drove around the country. So, but you have a purpose, like you have this mission to accomplish, and it connects actually to some of your experiences that you had earlier in life, right? You grew up in Indiana and you started having these crazy wild experiences. Did you have, first of all, tell us please about how that went for you, and then also, did you have any sort of frame of reference for these experiences, or was this just like striking you out of the blue?
No, it was out of the blue, and I thought I was the only one on the earth for about 10 years.
Wow.
But yeah, I just turned 6 years old, and my family watched an episode of a new sci-fi series called Lost in Space. It premiered in 1965, and the episode featured this 50-foot cyclops. It was a guy in a suit. It looks pretty funny today, but at the time when you're six, that was some scary, what. I was terrified, and I went to bed that night and I couldn't sleep. And I'm lying there and I hear this thumping sound inside my head. I thought it was the Cyclops coming down the street to get me. And he's coming in the house, and he's coming in the bedroom, and I was scared out of my mind. He's going to kill me. And so I played dead. I didn't just play dead. I said to myself, be dead. Just make yourself dead. And then when it goes away like a bear, then you make yourself alive again.
Wow, I love that concept.
Yeah, that was the plan, the mind of a 6-year-old. And but it worked, and this evil essence left, and I got up and heaved a sigh of relief. And when I turned around, I saw somebody lying in my bed, and that's when I realized, oh my God.
Like maybe I did. Maybe I made myself too dead.
I might have went a little bit too far. But after that panic, because your astral body, they call it the emotional body also, and for good reason, because your emotions are unfiltered. They're very powerful and raw. There's just no filter to them at all. So panic is very intense. But then I realized, wait a minute, I remembered this is me before I came into this life, into this body. I'm just back to where I was before. There's nothing to be worried about. It's like I'm taking a recess. So next thing I know, I'm flying over my hometown and reveling in this newfound sense of freedom of flying. It's the most incredible feeling that I think there is. And so those continued for another year, and then I saw the cartoon. There was a new cartoon, The Adventures of Superman, in 1966. And I thought, oh my God, here's somebody. This dude can fly. He's got a dog. Well, Superboy, that's who I related to. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, I love this guy, and he helps people. And that's when I found my purpose. I'm supposed to do something with this thing that I do. I don't even know what it is. But so sure enough, that night I go out of body, and I had learned at that point that you can look like an orb or a wisp or whatever you want, because you're just pure energy and your mind controls everything. So sure enough, I was I looked like Superboy. Yeah. And off I go, and I began answering. I started getting these distress calls from people who were alive, and some were dead, some are ghosts. And so I started helping them as best I could. And I have a series on, it's a 3D animated series. 3D animation is a wonderful tool for expressing these sort of complex, ethereal kind of ideas and out-of-body stuff. And so I learned 3D modeling, and I've got a series on Paraflix and Amazon Fire and Apple TV and all these things. And in episode 4, I animate this one episode, one experience where I go out of body at night, and I was like 11 years old. I was just a boy. And there's this alarm. It's like a beeper. It's like boop, boop, boop. Some bad stuff, and it's like the bat signal. So I follow it. It's very dire. And I fly over to England. I'm high over England. I see, and that's where it's coming from. I shoot down. I get close to the coastline of southern England, and there's this pirate ship, and this dude and this woman the guy's fighting off like 4 pirates, and he's cut to pieces, and he's ready to expire, and he's the source of the alarm. And he's got to protect this woman. He's got to get her to this village, and he's not going to make it. So I watch as he's stabbed in the stomach, and he lifts out of his body, and he goes to the tunnel. And then I'm pulled into his body.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, whoa, I've got this sword in me, and I'm remembering who this guy was and what, how to fight with a sword and just all this.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a buccaneer. And so imagine the fright that these pirates had when I cut this guy's hand off from his sword, and he's just lost his hand, and I pull the sword out, and I fight off the other 3 pirates.
Wow.
And they're like, what the? Yeah, they were pretty terrified.
Yeah.
Zombie Jonathan. So I call to the woman, let's go down the plank we go, and then up to this path along the cliffs there. And once I realized she was going to make it, and I turned around to make sure there's no pursuit, and there wasn't any. And yeah, I just lifted out of that buccaneer's body, and he hit the dirt just like a sack of potatoes. He was. And I had this nice leisurely flight home over the ocean. It was very peaceful, because the violence, I'm not even conveying. It was just a very violent and intense. It was, life and death going. And so I can still remember that clearly to this day. Some of these really stick with you.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just like living it, there's no difference in your experience. So, this is just as traumatic, I would assume.
Yeah, and you can go back through, like I was getting these pings from other me's in the past.
I was just going to ask that, like, you can travel through time and dimensions, then, how many times have you saved yourself, so to speak? Or, do you know your own future, or how does that work?
The future, they don't let you see much of that. Yeah. But when I was 9, we went to Colorado, my family, and it was pretty cool because I opened my first book, A Cry for a Hero. That's the story of a guy who, well, is like me. He's camping, and he falls asleep, and he wakes up, and there's a bear coming from him, and it's about to kill him. So he plays dead. The bear leaves, he gets up, he turns around, and there's somebody lying on his sleeping bag. And he's like 30, in my stories. And so he discovers that he can go out of body at will, and then he finds something really bad going on. There's this satellite beaming some red energy on somewhere, and he's like, what's this? And he gets sucked into this action adventure. It's kind of a Marvel comics or DC, movie kind of superhero action and romance and all that. So, but it opens up there in Colorado, where my friends lived, in this little town called Elbert with 180 people. It's out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, I went out of body one night when we were there visiting, and I went flying around the Rocky Mountains, and I was looking at all these monuments. And, I'm 9, so I don't know. I talk about the first time I saw the Taj Mahal.
Wow.
When I was 7. I didn't even know hardly outside of my town, but here I am flying around, and I'm looking at all these sites around the earth. So it was pretty cool and pretty different for me as a kid. But that's the first time I really noticed that there were all these monuments that are very old, and they were created by some very sophisticated civilization long ago. And here I am 60 years later, and that mission has come full circle. Like I said, I'll be moving there and just going to be spending a lot of time getting this out there because it's time.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because that thing, when you were that young, you saw these monuments in places where supposedly they're not supposed to be and don't exist. The Rocky Mountains, the Grand Canyon, and stuff. I can't wait to hear about Utah and what you're going to do there. But I feel like this happens to so many of us, especially those of us who are sort of caught up in these, well, for lack of a better word, paranormal experiences, and that we then get like distracted by normal life for a long time. At some point, do you feel like that's what happened to you? Like you just sort of slipped into normal life, and now here you are, like, oh yeah, there was actually like a lot more going on than that, and I'm gonna finally get back to it. Is that kind of how it went for you?
Well, yeah, I think that's how it goes for most people. You lose that childhood. And I remember when I was a kid saying, now don't forget
Don't forget.
what this is like. Your mom or your dad is talking to you about something, or your brother, or something's going on, and remember this when you're their age so you can look back and go, oh yeah, I remember that.
And you did.
So yeah, you try to keep that childhood perspective. But yeah, so I was going out for about 10 years, and I saw a book on the shelf. It had a picture of a guy lifting out of his body, and it was called Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. And I was like, what?
Wow. Yeah.
No way. There's somebody else. Yes. So, of course, I read that and his other two books, and I've read a number of books over the years. But yeah, I realized that was a big moment because I was no longer, it sucked being alone. I couldn't talk to anybody about it. If I said something to, a couple of my brothers, they'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Be quiet. So yeah, you kind of keep quiet about it. And then, yeah, Robert Monroe, and that was very cool. Another book I read that was influential was by Ingo Swann, who was one of the remote viewers from the Stargates, the CIA program there.
Yeah.
His book called Starfire has a scene where the main character goes out into space, and so that's how I cut my teeth. Like on cartoons, Superman would use his heat vision. I would try that in my astral self, in my natural state. So I would mimic these superpowers, and after a while, you get to learn how to use these powers that you have. And I was bullied really badly in high school because I was always the smallest kid in school, and so I did not want to. I knew about karma and these kind of things. I never wanted to use my powers in anger. And some of the bullies, there was a few of the bullies that had been, they died horrible deaths.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is like after high school. And I thought, oh man, because a lot of times, you go to bed, everybody leaves their body all the time. You just don't remember when you
Agreed.
wake up, right? But yeah, I thought, oh my God, I hope that wasn't me that did that, because it kind of seemed like that could have been me. I got angry and I went out of body and I flipped the car, and boom, and the guy his head was cut off,
Yeah.
Yeah, landed on the hood. Whew. I was like, oh my gosh. So I took the Superman oath, at age 20 there. And I will never use my powers in anger. I always have to be very mindful about what I'm doing as much as you can there.
Yeah.
And yeah, just be mindful of the consequences of your actions. So that was another moment in my life there that stands out. And
That's very sobering because I don't think many people listening who have heard other out of body experiences or other astral travel sort of things have ever maybe had it put it to them like that you can cause harm, that you can do damage, or that like, and that you might even do it on accident or without remembering. So I love this oath. I love that idea, that concept, that this is like the goal anybody should be striving towards, hopefully, if they are going to practice these types of things or aim for
Yes.
them, right?
Yes, it can be very tempting. For example, here's an experience I've never told anyone. Um, I was 18, 19, and a friend of mine, we went over to his boss's house to hang out, and the guy offered me a beer, and I never cared much for beer. I said, "Do you have any milk?" And I guess that, he was put off by that or whatever. And I'm just a really nerdy kid anyway. I'm a magnet for the bullies and that kind of thing. So we we went over there the following weekend, and these two guys, my buddy and his boss, set up this practical joke. And we go downstairs, and my buddy and the boss are arguing, and my friend says, go in the other room there. You got to hide in the closet. He's mad. He's drunk. He's got a gun, and he's pissed that you drank his milk.
Oh God.
So I'm thinking, what the hell? And I'm kind of thinking, this is some kind of setup. This can't be. The milk wasn't that good anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I get in the closet, and which was good because now I'm sort of in my phone booth. Now nobody can see me. I can change into. At that point, I had just got my superhero name from Robert Monroe, actually. Robert Allen Monroe, where I got my. So
I love that.
I'm in the closet, and they're out there screaming at each other, and I hear the gun goes off. I'm like, ooh, boy. So I go out of body. I float out into the basement, and I see this guy. He's got the gun, and my buddy, and I can see that it's a ruse. But I was ready to. You can pinch someone's brain. There are many ways to hurt people. Or defend yourself. Sometimes you have to defend yourself. But I was this close. I don't know where that guy is today, if he's still alive or whatever. I still see my buddy once in a while, but that was a situation where I was really tempted. This guy is just a bully and a prick and an asshole.
Yeah.
And I was real tempted, and it took a lot to not retaliate. So there's just one example. Yeah, it's a lot of the karma and philosophy, and a lot of that plays into it, where you really have to be mindful of consequences and unintended consequences.
Yeah. Well, even like when you entered the body of that buccaneer and sort of completed his mission, part of me is like, well, it seems like you would have had to have this like contract or agreement or right, because otherwise maybe you're messing with things like you don't necessarily understand, like how's it going to change history or something. And did you think about that type of stuff? Does that come up, or
Yeah,
even though
that
it's a
kind of
good thing, you're saving this woman, it's like, I don't know, what
Yes.
are you actually messing with?
Exactly. And because this big picture, we only have a narrow peephole to see the big picture that our guides, I think of them as our parents. They created us. They had little baby souls, and they send us to Earth. It's a compressed learning school.
I love it.
And, they were once like us, but they graduated Earth, and then they had babies, and they sent them to school. So, there's this big picture you always try to see. And so there was another experience that was very hard to deal with. And this was in 2013 in August. I go to bed, I go out of body. The alarm signal's there. I follow it, and it's right up the coast in, what is that? New Brunswick. And I'm floating above the street in front of this building, like a, kind of reminds me of my house. It's sort of a small town. Well, it turns out it's an exotic pet shop. And I can see the back end of this giant snake. One report said it was 23 feet long. You know, it's a massive anaconda. And the back of it is sticking out of this air duct. So the snake had gotten out of its cage and stood up on its tail up to the vent, got the vent, got into there. It's crawling through, but now it's like stuck, and it's really trying. And I can see that on the other side of this pet store in the same building, there's an apartment. And in this room are two babies. And the snake is full of need. It's hungry. It's got to get these, it's going to eat these kids. So, you know, there I am with my cape and leotards, you know, I can do anything. And so I grab this snake, and I'm pulling on the snake. I'm going to get this snake out of here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Maybe throw it in the water, in the ocean or something. I don't know. But I just have to save these two kids at all cost. I got to save the kids. It's going to eat the kids. If I don't save them, they're doomed. So I'm pulling, I'm yanking, and I realize, and it's not just stuck. There's something preventing me from pulling the snake, some power more than me, because I used all, I mean, you ever just go,
yeah, it's like all your adrenaline, all your will is like focused on this.
I'm screaming and pulling, and I'm like, there's some power greater than me. And it was my guide. And he says to me, because I'm going, help me, get the snake, it's going to eat the kids. I'm starting to panic. And you know, in 2013, I've been going out for probably like 50 years. I mean, the panic can still get you if you are not careful. And I'm starting to panic. And it's my guide says, you have to go now. And I'm like, what do you mean? You have to go now. And off I go, and I'm pulled back, and I jolt up. I'm in my body, and I have to pee. So I go up, I go to the bathroom, and I'm just going, I got to get back, you know, got to get back to bed, get back in my out of body, go back there. Because there's that time thing too. I could still go there and save them, you know. So I go back to bed, and you know, and it's not working. I can't get out of body, and I can't relax, and I'm just thinking of the kids, and this snake is about to eat them. So yeah, I couldn't get back, and I was lying in bed crying. So I get up a couple hours later. It's, you know, early in the morning, and I go online to see the news. I type in, well, that's what I do. If I'm somewhere, when I get home, I will see if I can find out where I was in the world, because you don't know.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, snake, you know, eats kids or something. And the story came up. It's New Brunswick, and there were two babies, and the snake. The vent ended up crashing down from the weight, either the weight of the snake, or that was me pulling on it. You know, maybe I caused the vent to break down.
Oh, wow.
See, I don't know, but the snake got in the room and it ate the two boys.
Wow.
So I was so angry and I was yelling in this right where I am. I was standing here going, why did you stop me?
Yeah.
I could have saved them. And so that night, go out of body, my guide's there waiting for me. We go back to New Brunswick and he shows me the scene again. That's where the snake was, and there's the boys in the room. And now I see that the boys are actually, they're old souls. It's their last time here.
Oh, wow.
Oh. They willingly did that for their mother. Old souls will often, they died horrible deaths, but it was to give the mother a chance to overcome the greatest loss, which is losing a child.
Times two, yeah.
Times two. Oh. So I don't know who that mother is, but wherever she is, I hope she's found some peace, and maybe someday I'll talk to her. I don't know, and let her know that her kids did that out of love. Yeah. The energy is crazy. It's just this beautiful radiation that comes from, your guide and old souls and these kind of things. It's just a wonderful, joyous, and these kids were radiating that. They came here one more time, and it's to help their mother. So, there's a lot of things like that where it's hard to understand why the events happen, but there's always a reason.
Right. This is it's hard too with you get into past lives and you get into like, why is this happening to me in this life? Like, I don't deserve it. I didn't do anything. But then you see your past lives and you're like, oh, I did this on purpose, actually. Yeah. And it's hard for us to understand from a limited perspective why any of that would happen. But also, you can understand if you think of like, okay, well then live in eternal bliss. What would that be like? It'd be cool, but then it'd be real boring and nothing would change. Nothing would happen. You wouldn't grow. Like, you actually chose this, and as much as that doesn't feel true sometimes, it is absolutely true. But it would have been so hard for me too, especially children. I have, as most of us probably do, an instinctual, like you protect them at all costs. Like, they are the most precious. So I can't imagine the pain and the heartache that caused you, even knowing what you knew in the end,
Yeah, and that mother, what a tough lesson, but
yeah.
She probably came through it, I'm guessing. Okay, she's overcome that. I had a mother come to me, and it was at a book signing in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, and she said, I saw your ad yesterday. You were going to be here and read about you. So my son passed away last year in a car accident, and I can't get over it. And she was crying. She lost it, man. The son was like 21 years old, died in a car accident. And I said, she goes, I'm Catholic, and, I was taught to believe this, but as a part of me just think he's gone, and, religion is just a bunch of BS, and there's no God, and there's no nothing, and he's just gone. And I was like, no, don't think that. He's around. He's very much around. In fact, he's going to come visit you in a dream, because it's easier for ghosts to get your attention. Your vibration is closer to theirs, and it's just easier to reach out to people in a dream. And she stopped crying, and she actually smiled, and she said, I dreamed about him last night. He was at the foot of my bed. I said, oh, what did he say? Did he have a message for you? She said, to come here and see you today.
Wow. So she could know that it was real.
It's real. Yeah. There's your validation. So you know, it's a rewarding feeling to be able to help people, whether it's out of body or at a book signing like that. Um, you know, people that don't have the advantage. I feel like I have an advantage. I spend more time out of body, you know, and I have that perspective. So a lot of people don't, and they don't know what's going to happen when they die, and they have certain beliefs, but you don't really know, and so it's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really liberating. I mean, aside from just literally being liberated from your body and being able to fly and do all this cool stuff, it's very liberating, you know, psychologically and emotionally to know for sure, experientially, that there's more to this than this, than what we're
Oh,
doing, you know, while we're awake in a body. And I wish everybody could connect with that. I really don't think everybody came here to do that, though. Not everyone wants to, needs to, is able
yeah,
to for whatever reason. And, you know,
yeah,
that's, I think, also just like we were talking about, kind of their choice and how they set things up for themselves in this life. So even though I
that's right.
wish everyone could have it, I know there's probably a good reason why not everyone does. Um,
Hmm.
well, I have so many questions for you, and I do want to get to the Anunnaki in Utah, but I just wanted to ask a few things about some of it. Like, you're still astral traveling and doing out of body stuff every night, basically?
Oh no, not every night,
Oh, okay.
or I don't. At least I don't remember.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. I just want to sleep some
I was
nights.
gonna say, don't you ever just get tired? Like, don't you just want to like just sleep?
Yeah, I just want to sleep. I don't want to do anything, and then, or there's other times where I'm somewhere doing something important, and then something pulls me back, and I jolt awake, and you know my cat's in my face going, meow, you know, I'm hungry.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
Oh,
thanks. I
thanks a
was just
lot.
at the pyramids.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Have
So,
you seen? You know, there's all these debates. Space is fake. Earth is flat. Do you have a perspective on those, given your out of body travels?
yeah, the Earth is round, and all the planets are round, and the universe is round, and
And it's real.
um, yeah, and it's real, and we live other lives on other planets too, and that it's probably once I explore some more and visit with my guide and ask questions, and um, I was probably on Nibiru or whatever this planet. I don't know a lot about the Anunnaki. I just know
Yeah.
this is them, that they were here and they built all this, and they're doing this all over the the galaxy, or you know, many Earth-like planets. So this is going on all over the place. We're just one planet out of many, and of course Mars. Yeah, I refer to the Western U.S. as Mars 2.0 because um, long ago we had this advanced civilization here in our solar system, and Mars was the art planet. You know, they sculpted the whole planet as a big art gallery. And you see that out west with the Grand Canyon and the Rocky Mountains, and it goes right down into Central America and down into South America with, you know, the pyramids and all this. But the main art gallery is in America, and the Utah Swell, they actually, you know, these people make planets. They're very advanced beings, their technology. So, yeah, they just swelled. You hear these archaeologists. I just want to puke sometimes when I hear these archaeologists, and how the park rangers at Archer's National Park will tell you this is all very interesting erosion, you know. Isn't it really interesting?
It's just so interesting how it only happened here.
Yeah. So yeah, they swelled the ground. It's the most stable spot on the earth. There's no earthquakes. It's very arid, so there's not much rain. They wanted this to last a very long time. You know, a lot of thought went into this, into creating this area. And it's not just Arches National Park, it's also Canyonlands National Park right next door. And it goes down into, like, my brother just moved to Sedona.
Ooh, yeah.
And I go on Google Earth, and within 2 minutes, I see this huge pillar. I don't know how big it is. It's probably, I mean, it's hundreds of feet high, and it's Annunaki, same as Arches National Park. Here they are. It's all over the West, over to California, up through Montana. It's massive. Up into Canada. Yeah, it's just a massive area. And you try to wrap your mind around what it took to create all these monuments. So um, this all came about last August when I work with Richard Hoagland. He has a radio show, and Richard's been a researcher, a truth seeker for decades. I followed him for a long time because of his Mars work. I've been to Mars many times, and wait till you see what's waiting for us there. It's really cool. And then we have some of that here in the Western US too. So um, we had Scott Walter on. He's from America Unearthed. It's a show. And he was there to talk about this monolith that was in the news. It was found in Utah in Canyonlands National Park.
I remember it was like a black obelisk, or sort of like an obelisk at least.
It was an obelisk.
Yeah.
It was white,
white.
steel.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was like, I don't know, 10, 12 feet tall, something like that. And it was just very odd for it to be sitting out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So during that show, Keith Morgan, who's the engineer for the show, he showed some pictures that he took when he went to Arches Park to visit, and he took some pictures. He's like, man, these really look like monuments, And when I saw his pictures, I went, oh my God. And it's like I said to Richard, I said, Keith saw this tree. When I saw it, I saw this massive forest, because I already knew this stuff was there anyway, but I just went, oh my God, that's an elephant, there's a lion, there's a thing. That's a fish. Yeah, there's a race of these, I call them the fish people, because their heads kind of look like an angel fish.
Yeah. Don't we have representations of them around in different cultures and stuff? Or am I just thinking that I've seen them before?
Maybe.
Maybe I've just met them before on my own travels.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, because it's the sort of human-looking Anunnakis. You have these fish people, very strange beings, but very powerful and wise. And at the center of Arches National Park is this monument of this fish guy. He's got to be like the main guy, because this monument is smack dab on, if you're familiar with Richard Hoagland's work and his hyperdimensional physics, it's at a spot that's twice 19.5 degrees above the equator.
Oh.
These are these are special spots on the Earth where the energy lines are going and this kind of thing. So when I saw where it was at just a hair under 39 degrees, which is the same spot, if you go east from there, you'll run into the Washington Monument, which was also put on that line
type of point.
Yeah, it's put on that line, latitude. And so I started looking at all these alignments, these solar alignments, and I'm sure there's a lot of lunar alignments. And what I want to do in time is to create a 3D model of Arches National Park.
Wow.
And Canyonlands too. And then I can really go in and animate the sun actually coming up on the equinox and shining down into the delicate arch area. That's the other thing. You have all these arches. There's no pyramids. People are like, what? If it's Anunnaki, did they have some pyramids or something? No. Those were, you'll find those down in South America and Mexico and those areas, but in the swell, you don't need the pyramids. It's the most stable.
Yeah.
It's already made. So, yeah.
That makes so much
Yeah.
sense to me now that you're saying that. Like, the pyramids are heavy and big and they're stable. This is like showing off. Like, look how stable we made it. We can make this very delicate arch. It's going to be here forever. That's
It'll
amazing.
be here forever. Yes, they made the swell, and it's an art gallery. The Earth, it's Earth sculpting, it's Earth art, it's planetary sculptures.
Yeah.
They sculpt these planets on these grand scales. So yeah, I started looking around. I don't know if you want to go to. Maybe we could go to
Yeah,
Arches
let's do
National
it.
Park.
Let's jump into the stuff. I love it.
Okay, how do I share my screen?
You should have a button at the bottom that's green that says share screen.
Ah, yes.
And then that should let you select whatever window or
Okay, let me
something
give it a
you want.
shot.
Okay.
Okay. See if I can figure this out.
I usually just select the whole screen, and then that way I know I can move and swap things out. And so now,
oh, here we go. Yeah, okay.
yeah. So I see Google Earth. Yep.
Yes, Google Earth.
Cool.
Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're looking down at this area we've been talking about. Here's Moab over here.
Yes.
If you look in the right corner over here of Google Earth, you can see this red pointer, this red circle with the pointer on it. So we're looking south.
Okay.
And Arches National Park is here. Delicate Arches over here. This green area here, I just love, and nobody goes there. A lot of these places, I mean, I've had to name all this stuff because there's no names there. There's no people go there. There's no names for any of these immaculate and crazy, incredible temples and all this stuff. So this area here in green is Fish Deep Draw, it's called, and it's really amazing. There's a bunch of arches in there, and I did find one guy. What I do is I study it on Google Earth, and then I go on YouTube and I've watched hundreds of videos. I have thousands of images I've collected since last August, and so then I go on YouTube and I watched many videos. And I found one a few weeks ago of this guy who actually went down to the corner here of this area. He's a travel guy, he's got hundreds of thousands of followers, he goes through the state parks and he films it and this kind of thing, but he's walking around, and I'm trying to get a sense if he knows where he is, what he's surrounded by.
Yeah.
At one point, because I've been astonished that no one has sang into these arches. And all these videos on YouTube, you have many people go to these arches at dawn. On any given day, they'll be there at dawn, especially like on an equinox or a solstice. But, the sun will come up and it's shining through the arch and it's magical. No one is singing. You have to sing.
Ah.
So this travel guy, he's walking through Fish Deep Draw here, and he stops at one arch, and it's very small. It's about 3.5 to 4 feet. And the definition of an arch is anything that's over a meter, any arch that's over a meter. So he's like, this qualifies, and he stands on top of it because it's right on the ground, and he kind of stands up on it, and he's talking, and he goes, "What was that?" And he goes, "Oh, that was an echo. I've never heard an echo like that. That's really strange." And I'm like, "Dude, sing into the arch. Come on.
Come on.
You can do it." He's clueless. And he just goes, "Wow, that's really neat."
He noticed the acoustics and then just let it go.
and let it go and went
Wow.
on. He's not thinking about Anunnaki. This is all real stuff that's architecture. It's just neat erosion to him.
Hmm.
And he's thinking about getting more subscribers and this kind of
Yeah.
thing, you know? So,
Yeah.
but man, when I go there, I will be doing all these experiments with sound and opening up the arches, which are doorways.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, because sound
So,
is the key to everything. Like that's what undergirds everything in creation. So I'm very excited about that idea.
it sure is. It sure is. Um, all right. Well, first, let's go look at an area that's over here where you drive in. You enter the park, and you come up to this area here. This is called Park Avenue, and it's this span through here.
Oh
And they
yes.
call it, there are names for some of these places, and they call it Park Avenue because you're walking along and you have, it's like buildings in Manhattan,
Right.
let's say. And you park down here and you walk on the trail. And one of the pictures that my friend Keith showed me last August during the show that I went, what the hell? Was this here.
Yeah.
He was like, wow, that looks like Nefertiti here.
Wow.
And when I saw this, because I saw all of this. I mean, this right here is Osiris, for example.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is part. See, there's a fish man right here. This is a fish man. They're all over.
Yeah.
So you have the fish woman up here, and it's not Nefertiti, it's a fish woman. This, and the whole parks and everything, they made their home. So I think of this area as the Fishman dynasty. This is part of their castle. This is part of the castle. It's very beautiful when you go in and look at it. Over here, they love the murals. They have, look at these beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like Anunnakis, and when you start looking at it, it just looks like nothing right now. But it's 450,000 years old. But when you start looking at it, you go, "Oh my God,
The lines,
these are
the spacing.
it's
Yeah.
they're here. It's their history, everything about them. There's writing. We should have had this figured out long ago, which is why I'm jumping on this because it's so extraordinary that this has to become public knowledge,
Yeah.
and we need tons of archaeologists out there putting this all together, rediscovering their languages and all the artwork. It needs to be preserved. So let me show you just some alignments, for example. Now, here we are looking west. I noticed that there's a lot of these sort of Park Avenue things where you have a row like this, and then they'll have these V-shaped, these cutouts here.
Yeah.
This is for catching the sun. Yeah, this is all solar. We're looking west, so on a particular day, you're going to have, and look over here, there's another one,
Huh.
and it's lined up with this.
Yeah.
This is lined up with here, back here. Everything is lined up with everything. Now, this here is a dog head. This is Anubis.
Oh yeah.
Lots of dogs, and they always have these crowns.
Oh yeah.
See that? Yeah. That's Anubis, and over here you have, I believe this is another dog here. This would be the dog's head.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is the dog's body, and you have, whoa, this is another dog here.
Oh yeah.
Everything is, I mean, look at this look at this immaculate sculpturing.
It's beautiful.
This is all Anunnaki history. These are great leaders. All these little, the park rangers call these little things goblins. Oh, there's thousands of these goblins in the
Yes.
parks.
Yes. I went to Goblin Valley State Park and I was like, this is really, really eerie, actually. Like, there's a presence here and an energy here that I cannot describe.
Absolutely. I mean, this place is so beautiful. This Park Avenue, if you have a chance, go there and you will see that all of this is sculpted. I mean, look at this. And on Google Earth, it's very low res, so you get an idea for what it looks like. But then that's why I go to YouTube and watch the video and I put them side by side.
That's cool.
To compare them and to see what's really going on. I call this feature the Three Amigos.
Yeah.
These would be three very important people, great leaders, that kind of thing. So what you also have in all these parks are some wonderful hidden chambers too. So let's go over to the balanced rock.
It's reminding me too of Mount Rushmore, and it's making me think of some of the theories that perhaps Mount Rushmore actually was something else besides these presidents, and that it was kind of already there. That makes me wonder if it's connected to this.
And that movie American Treasure, you may remember, they go inside Mount Rushmore, and there's all these hidden chambers, and you know, they release the floodwaters and all this stuff, and yeah, it's really going on. Okay, so the first picture that I saw from Keith last August was this balanced rock. And as I said, this is at 39 degrees above the equator, which is a sacred spot.
Yeah.
And you have these two, I call them the legacy towers, because this is an elephant here. It's, you know, it's all animals. All of this is completely sculpted. When you go and look at it, the whole thing is complete. It's all just like Mars. Every inch is sculpted. So you have this balanced rock. This is the fish head.
Yeah.
This is the guy. And he's got to be the main guy because it's at 39 degrees.
And that,
And
like, people might not get how that rock is, it doesn't make sense. You're standing next to it and you're like, how is this not falling? The angle of it, and it's too weird.
it's attached. Yeah, it's not balanced at all. And I noticed in Keith's picture that there was, in the background, there was this other, it's out of my, Google Earth can be,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's this feature behind balanced rock. Let me show you from the top. This is Quetzalcoatl here. That is a dragon.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, like I said, if you're in Earth orbit and you look down at this stuff, you're going to see planetary art. And as you get closer, you know, it's all embedded art. So when you get closer, there's other art, and then you get even closer.
Yeah, like
So,
to put art at every angle, every dimension in it all.
every,
That's pretty
when you look at it from this side, and then you go around, you look the other side, it's something else. So we have this feature here is so beautiful.
So beautiful.
This all had waterfalls because it's all murals and all this, but there's a fish head lady Sphinx. Now the Sphinxes aren't like the one in Egypt that we're so familiar with, but they do look like them. They're more like mounds than Sphinxes, but same idea. Here she is. This is the Queen Sphinx, and
Yeah.
you can see that when you get in closer that it's crumbled. It used to be, you know, it was built up here. She had more of a body, and that's fallen apart. But right next to her, these are Anunnaki figures here.
Yeah.
These are all, you're going to see these all over, where there'll be 6 or 8 busts. And yeah, the whole thing. It's incredibly amazing when you start looking. I encourage everyone to go on Google Earth and take a look at this stuff. So another cool thing is that the balanced rock, and as you can see down here, according to our directions, we're looking straight east.
Mm.
And I did an alignment, and sure enough, the Sphinx head here, the tip of it is exactly lined, east west,
Wow.
which means it's a solar alignment.
Yeah. Yeah, which is
And
it's not every 2 points that makes that exact alignment. Like that's
it's all exact. It's all sculpted and engineered. Yeah, the engineering is incredible. So and then you have all these arches through here. Like I said, these are all gateways. And here's a symbol over here. I've been trying to. I would say this is. I haven't found this symbol.
wow.
In Egyptian or what, I don't know what it is. It's maybe Annunaki language.
It makes me think of a phoenix for some reason, like
a phoenix,
like it's spiraling up and out of like the ashes, like to be reborn or something, but it's also severed, so I don't really understand what that would be.
Yeah, this is one of the places that doesn't even have a name, and it's really unfortunate because you can see that this is another bust. This is an Annunaki here. These are, it's very old, so it's not that clear, but that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And
why wouldn't they name it?
Well, I just mean the park rangers, because they don't even, no one goes down this far.
Right.
This is the end of this area here where balanced rock is. And yeah, so here's like the whole balanced rock area. I think it is just this.
Yeah.
And what's cool is when you go over to Delicate Arch and some of the other spots, you will see that Delicate Arch is lined up with the Queen Sphinx here. Huh. So when you're looking through Delicate Arch,
you're seeing that.
You're looking at her, yeah, across the way. It's a few miles distant. So there's so many alignments here. The arch is over here. When the sun shines off balanced rock, it comes. It's so cool. So I have a lot of work ahead of me, but it's going to be really cool and fun. Now, what time do we have? Okay. If you could, I encourage all the listeners to go to Delicate Arch. Over here, here's the arch itself.
Yeah.
And this is a pool here. I call this Temple South, and this is Temple North. And what an incredible place just this Temple North is with the sun. For example, I have pictures here where the sun comes through and it shines through a triangular hole, which shines down right in the middle. One of the somebody on YouTube, taking the video, shot this. People are looking at this like, I don't get it. I saw the light shaft coming down here. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you come down here and look at this stage here, and you see that there's actually like a Quetzalcoatl or Godzilla. See, this is the head.
Yeah.
This is the body here and the tail.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We were talking about acoustics. They have all these acoustical.
Yeah.
What do you call these?
Amphitheater.
Amphitheater. That's a good word. Amphitheaters everywhere for singing and creating certain waves and so all this up here, if you go on YouTube, you'll see all the people walking around here. These are all, this is another Sphinx. These are Anunnakis. These are, oh my God, it's so amazing. And what the alignments you have over here, let me just show you a really cool one. Remember I was talking about the V-shaped openings?
Yeah.
Well, the sun on the solstice comes up here.
Huh.
It shines just as it's coming up. This would be the coolest thing in the world to see. I got to do this sometimes, but the sun would come through here, and I have some pictures I want to show you too. It shines on this structure here.
Huh. Right through
Look at
that.
that. That is some kind of stage. I call this
Yeah.
area prana amplifiers because it's taking the sun, which in Indian culture they call it prana.
Yeah.
The sun has this etheric energy that our bodies absorb. And if you stood there, you would get all this amplified, concentrated energy, just like you would in the North Temple with the little triangle shaft of light coming down that I saw shine on thing. You would stand in that shaft of light, triangular shaped shaft of light, and it would energize you and heal you and these kind of things.
Yeah. And this is scientifically, proven. Your mitochondria needs sunlight. Your body needs it to produce vitamin D, all these things, and there is nothing that can replace it. You can take all the vitamin D you want, you can eat all the right foods or whatever, but you actually need the sun in order to produce the kind that protects you, heals you, and matters the most. And then that yeah, and there's this idea too of these ancient cultures that are predate our known history, supposedly. I think we know it is what I'm really trying to say, but anyways, that maybe they had what people are calling antiquitech, and that it also was healing, like the structures themselves were built in ways that would amplify the cymatics or the sunlight or these natural etheric energies in order to let you absorb them more easily and heal and do all these things. And I think why not? Because that's what nature does. So the height of our art would be that. It would be amplifying that which nature
Absolutely.
does.
Yeah, have you ever seen those Indian singing bowls? I believe they call them.
Yeah.
It's a bowl.
I have one.
They have
right
like
here.
a wood handle. You got one?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know how
well
you'll hear it.
Oh yeah. See, I'm working with Richard Hoagland on. We're sending these encoded radio message to these ETs or whoever they are.
Yeah.
And we're getting something back.
That's wild.
And so then we went. Maria Stonehenge, we sent her to Stonehenge, Maria Wheatley, and she broadcast the message, and then she records. And her most recent one was on March 20th, which is the equinox.
Yeah.
And we're going to be discussing it this Saturday night show. I'll give you a little preview of that, because the recording is very cool. A minute, 18 seconds into it, you hear the most wonderful chimes.
Wow.
And you hear it all through as it comes and goes. And what you're hearing is, and this is Stonehenge, it's round, all these big stones set up in a circle. So what's happening is this radio message we're getting back, the frequencies are, and the sun, and Maria said the moon was going down behind her as the sun is coming up.
Wow.
Yeah, she said it was just really beautiful. And so, the moon and everything moving around, that's all part of hyperdimensional physics. That's affecting the torsion field when you have these planets,
Yeah.
what do they call the horoscopes, or, it's astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is something to that.
Yeah, yeah. Those energies actually affect each other. We're all affected. Every cell, everything has its energy signature. That's all affecting one another. Ooh, I'm gonna tune in this Saturday. That's gonna be exciting.
You can hear it, just like you were taking that wood handle and running around Stonehenge and activating. And there's different, I think, like the blue stones, there's 56 blue stones. They resonate at a particular frequency. The lentil stones vibrate at this one. And so sometimes you get multiple stones and it's going ringing like a crystal would or something. So it's very, very cool. And we'll be going into detail on that this Saturday. That'll be fun.
Super exciting.
Yeah. And so let me bring up a few pictures if I can here. Let's see. So can you see my folders here? Is
No,
that showing
I
up?
can still. You'd have to put it over the arches or the Google Earth area because we're still seeing that.
Okay, I am putting it, so you're not seeing it.
Oh, so maybe go back to your screen share button and see if you can select that folder then instead, because it'll be a different
Oh,
window. Because sometimes it's showing your whole screen, and sometimes it's just showing one window you select, no matter where you put it. Even if you minimized it, I think it might even still show that window. So if you go back and use the screen share button, it should like let you reselect what you want us to see.
okay. Oh, here we go. Did that bring it up?
Oh, yep, that worked.
Oh, cool. All right. Let's see. I wanted to show you, gosh, and I just had this idea, what, an hour before I emailed you like, hey, why don't we do the screen share? So
Yeah.
I'm not really prepared, but
No worries.
let's see if I can. Here's another picture of balanced rock. It's a little more. You can see the fish head here, comes down. But I did a little comparison. Let's see if it's in here. I think it is. Here it is. One of the solar alignments. I have another picture somewhere from another angle where you're facing. This is a lion head here. This is another head. This is a bust here too.
I don't
And
know
a
if
little crown. This is the forehead. This is the eye.
we're still seeing the little the tiny icons and not. I don't know if you opened and made it a bigger picture. We didn't see that. We're not seeing that.
Oh, you're not seeing my pictures?
We're seeing just the folder with the little
Oh,
pictures.
just the folder.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, I guess we have to use the little pictures then. I don't know how to make them big so you can see them, but for example, right here,
Oh yeah.
that's the lion head.
Wow.
The sun
Right, with the
comes up
sun.
right on. Yes. And then you can see the lion better. I use a graphic. I put the picture of a lion next to it so you can really see. Where did it go? Here it is. So you still can't see the picture big. You just see the small.
Yeah, I
Oh,
just see
okay.
you highlighted on Lion Side View B, but not. But I see actually exactly what you're talking about.
You can see that.
Yeah, I don't know how many other people can see that
Yeah.
clearly, but yeah, I see that exact same shave. That's so cool. You know, it
Yeah.
reminds me too of Graham Hancock talking about. I think it was Graham, maybe it was Robert Bauval, but one of them or both of them was talking about how this was like a signature mark for dating the sort of date of the creation, right? So this is maybe saying that this was created in the age of Leo, which was how many tens of thousands of years ago. Do you know what I'm talking about? And do you feel like that's what's happening with these lions everywhere and all of these sort of major alignments, especially on solstices and that sort of thing?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not an Anunnaki expert. I just know a little bit about them.
Yeah.
But I believe my feeling was this is older. I think there was a civilization 200,000 years ago. But this goes back, there's evidence that there was another one about 400,000 years ago. And then when I asked Keith, he said, well, the Anunnaki came here 450,000 years ago, according to Zechariah Sitchin's book, who, he studied the ancient text of the Sumerians, and yes, and wrote this book about it. And so I'm even seeing, as Keith was telling me the story, Keith has read the book and he's very knowledgeable in the Anunnaki, and he's sharing these stories with me, and I'm seeing these characters in Arches Park.
Yeah.
So it was just very cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, man, I tell you, the whole thing is so amazing when you start looking around. And like I said, my next step is to move out there and get a few people that will volunteer, other truth seekers, and maybe live in Grand Junction. I don't know. I'm going to need some help with this. And I want to get Scott Wolter involved. So Richard said we'll do a show with me and my research, and then we'll see if we can get Scott Wolter back and see what he thinks of this, because most people are going to say, "Oh, you're just a crazy weirdo. This is all erosion,"
Yeah, but most people don't really even think that much. They just go through routines and live and die. So I'm not worried about them. I would love to help if I could. I'm pretty far away, but maybe I could come out for a visit and at least poke around or something.
Yeah, here's a couple other images where when you first drive into the park, you have this massive Osiris on top of this cliff.
Yeah.
I think I have I think I have a whole folder, Horus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You can't see the big pictures,
No, but I see exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Here he is, big as day, and I don't know who these other two people are, but yeah, and it's very detailed. There's lots of sculpting and glyphs. I mean, all of this, every inch. Here is what it looks like when you go to Google Earth and look at it. Here's the Osiris. Yeah, wow. So if you people out there listening, I encourage you again just to go to Arches Park and Canyonlands too. More astonishing, even more. It's a much larger park, so it's just it's wow, just really overwhelming. I'll show you a few. Well, here's Canyonlands.
Well, and it's really interesting too, because all these things you're showing us would affirm that these weren't just, fanciful representations of these animal-headed gods or therianthropes, as they are sometimes called, that they were actually these beings with these that was the actual shape of their head,
That's the actual shape. And if you go to, well, I don't want to say too much. I'll give I don't want to give too much away,
Yeah.
but because I'm going to be doing a show, like I said, with Richard, and hopefully Scott Wolter will come be on the show and offer some commentary. And I mentioned the murals.
Yeah.
So some of them I've added I wish I could open these up, because here's one that, boy, it looks just like the Annunaki. All the statues that you see of them. When you start looking at this stuff on a regular basis, it starts coming out at you, and you start seeing it better. That another thing I noticed in these murals is that they have these vertical bands that run up and down.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the spectral waveforms of these radio signals. It's all these bands, and it seems like maybe it's part of the, they write up and down, and it's very glyphy, like lots of little glyphs.
Yeah.
And these darkened bands, you see the white glyphs here. This is from Park Avenue. And I think this is, like I said, it's their history, their writing. We could figure this out if we just get some linguists and some geologists, and all of this needs to be preserved and for future.
Yeah. Well, I love that idea that it's these like radio wave signatures, or I know exactly what you're talking about because I look at the Schumann resonance a lot, and that's kind of what it looks like too. It's these lines, and they're like interrupted sort of sometimes with these other lines going through them, and there's all of this action going on. If we could sort of read that, what you're saying, like I don't know, a radio wave or a sound wave, or somehow turn it into information.
Something.
I don't even know how to describe what I'm saying, but I'm sure that's what you're headed for. Is trying
Yeah.
to decipher like what the information is encoded in that.
What we're trying to discover with these radio signals that we're getting is, are we hearing, because in the background of the static, it sounds kind of like a radio station. And so either we're hearing a radio station that is right next to our frequency, which is 432 megahertz, or we're hearing the Schumann resonance, we're hearing the ether, we're hearing thought. This isn't people talking, this is people thinking. And when I'm flying around the earth and I'm in the Schumann resonance, you can tune into that. And it does. It sounds like lots of people whispering, and it's all these people thinking. So this last, what we're going to talk about this Saturday, I'm going to bring up something.
I brought you back because I thought maybe we were done looking at. Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. One of our team, he was recording the signal near this balanced rock in New York. And I hear this voice. I forget what it says, but it's just kind of it's pretty clear voice. And I said to Ralph, I'm like, Ralph, there's this voice. And he listens to it and he says, that sounds like me, but I was asleep. I went to sleep. I had the recording set, but I was sleeping. So if indeed we are hearing the ether and the Schumann resonance, that would make sense. He was talking in his dream or whatever, and he's right there, and it picked it up. So,
wow.
Yeah, really cool.
I love that. It's also makes me think of, people are getting their, oh God, I'm going to forget the name. When you're doing ghost hunting and you try to record EVPs.
EVPs.
Yeah, it'd be similar to that, but it's like you're just still alive. How you could still make an EVP when you're alive? You don't have to be dead to do it.
Well, that's right. I went to make an EVP for Maria when she's been to Stonehenge twice now. She just lives down the street from there. But the first one she did, I go out of body, I go to Stonehenge, I use my heat vision on a stone to see if I can create any, I don't know.
Yeah.
EVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get the recording and I'm listening to it, and there's some sort of slashing. It sounds like slashing rain. And my first thought was she didn't have it connected properly because the external microphone is picking up rain and stuff. The external microphone should be cut off. It should be going directly recording into the digital recording part. But she goes, no, there was no external microphone. That is, that's what you're hearing. That's not the weather or something. And so I thought, man, is that an EVP from me?
Do you do that?
Yeah, did I do that? So we're going to try another experiment like that, which is pretty cool for Richard, who's very scientific, but he understands there's more going on now. And so we're going to do this kind of paranormal test with Maria at Stonehenge and me and maybe some other people, that kind of thing, and
how cool.
See if we can get some EVPs or something concrete, that you can show people, say, look.
It's replicable. Every time we do this is what happens. Yeah. This, I live right near the Garden of the Gods. I don't know if you're familiar with the Garden of the Gods.
That rings a bell.
It's very Utah-y. Like it has these giant red rocks, these giant structures. They're very strange. They're very out of place, seemingly. There's nowhere else where they are. They're just there. And they look like sculptures to me. And I'm always just marveling at everyone's always marveling at them. They're it's not a national park. It's actually like a city park or something. But anyways, it should be a national park. It's very exceptional and beautiful. And what's my point? Oh, with your eyes now that I've seen these through Canyonlands and all these places you've shown us, I now want to go back there and look for these features, and really see, because I wonder what I've missed. I haven't looked at it through those eyes before.
Garden of the Gods.
Yeah, check it out.
Check that
and
out.
if I can help, it's literally like 10 minutes away from me. So if you want any raw footage or new angles, let me know.
Well, Richard was saying, we're going to discuss this Saturday. Where next do we go? Because Maria was actually supposed to go to the Giza Pyramid on March 20th. And she had permission. She was going to go inside the pyramid and broadcast our encoded message. And it's just like the old Voyager, where they have like a picture of humans and, that's what the message is. It's just like, hey, we are here, And then she was going to record any message that we might get. So from the King's Chamber. So it was pretty exciting. And then a few days before she was supposed to go, she was going with this guy, Brian Forster, who's, spent decades studying pyramids and all this kind of stuff, like Graham Hancock. But they both came down with COVID, and she was in the hospital. And
how awful.
So, yeah, she got out, and then she went to Stonehenge that morning anyway, because she says it's on a ley line with the pyramid. So that recording is what we'll be discussing this Saturday, but it was supposed to be from the pyramid. And so I said to Richard, though, what I think we should do is have someone go to Delicate Arch, and we really want to do this on the summer solstice or an equinox. I'd like to do it, on the summer solstice is coming up, and they broadcast our encoded message into the arch and have the recorder going and see what we get. And if there's any funkiness going on, and they can sing while they're there and listen to how bizarre it's going to sound when you sing into the arch. And I think that's the next step, is to go to the arch and do that.
That's very exciting. I love how many projects you're doing and how they all connect. This Enterprise mission where you're sending these codes out and seeing what comes back, and then this project with Utah and all the monuments and the Annunaki stuff, and all the work you do, and the books you write as well have this flavor to them. I know. I actually wanted to ask you, this wasn't where I was going originally, but now that I'm talking, I wanted to see just how much of those books that you have written are real. Like, how much of them are even though they're fiction, and I get that, how much of it is your real actual experience, would you say, percentage-wise?
Percentage? Oh, gosh, I don't know. It depends on the book, I suppose, but there's a lot of me in A Cry for a Hero and Ram I Am, which are the, same characters. And that's kind of my alter ego and put into an action adventure. But yeah, a lot of that is me. And I call it science faction because it is there's a lot of fact. And my book Old Souls is about a group of Martians who had superpowers. They escaped the destruction, long, long ago, and they made it to Earth, and they settled in Montana, and that's where they started making these monuments. And I wrote Old Souls about 14 years ago, something like that. And I didn't know at the time about Arches National Park, but I knew about, all the monuments through there, and just trying to draw some attention to that and put it in I can get away with putting things in a story that I wouldn't go say on a news station or something, because they'd think you were crazy. But my books are definitely science faction. And I have a couple other projects going on with Maria Wheatley, and I are doing a film on Stonehenge, and I cut a trailer the other day, and I wasn't sure if she was going to like it. It's a little personal, because I think her father, she's following in her father's footsteps, and I think that's really cool. And so it's a little personal, I guess, but very family. It's about what's the word I'm looking for? Not legendary, but
Mythical?
ah, I can't think of the word. But anyway, yeah, carrying on and passing down and these kind of things. And so, yeah, she loves the trailer. She just loves it.
Oh,
She's
good.
Today she emailed me. She showed it to her family. They love it. I wasn't sure because I thought they might be like, "Who does this guy think he is? He's opening old wounds and or something."
Yeah.
But no, they loved it. So we're doing this film on Stonehenge. It's be a lot of 3D animation and which I really enjoy. So that's cool. And then I've done one show with Russell Targ. It's a 90-minute film, animated. I host it with my 3D avatar on a virtual set. It's really neat
That's cool.
and fun. And we're going to do Russell. I don't think he's feeling he's going to be around that much longer. He's so aware of his mortality. He just had a birthday the other day. He turned 88, so he's very much about having everything in order, and he wants to do one more film, and he really likes my work, so we're going to do something a little different, and there'll be more of his mother and dad too. Legacy, that's the word I was.
Ah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. I was like,
carry on
tradition?
the
I don't think that's what you mean.
tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on the legacy. Russell's dad was a famous publisher. He's the one
Oh, I
that
didn't know that.
yeah, he was like he worked at a New York pub, and um, he says, "Yeah, we got to get this book published." And the guy and the publisher was like, "No," and Russell's dad was like, "No, I'm telling you, we got to do this." And I got the guy to do it, and they said, "Okay, we're gonna do it, but man, if this flops, you're toast." So they published the book, and it was called The Godfather, and they ended up making the
Oh,
movie and
wow.
the whole
They definitely
So
didn't flop.
it did not flop. So he had a few hits like that where published some books that weren't going to make it, and he stuck it out and that kind of thing. So his parents are very interesting. So we'll be doing starting with his parents, and then we get to Russell, and he sent me some pictures of when he's like 5 years old, when
Aw.
he's got these really big ears and
I love
glasses.
it. I want to
So,
see this.
so yeah, we're going to begin production this fall, and I think he just wants to really get it done before he leaves the earth.
Yeah.
So
How beautiful. I love that you guys have that relationship and that you get to do that. You get to work with some pretty amazing people, and you're a pretty amazing person too, so you deserve it. I love all the projects you have. I have a random question. Do you ever feel like you face oppression or suppression rather, or a kind of attack, whether from humans or otherwise, because of what you do and what you talk about? Or do you feel like it's just been pretty open and not repressed or not suppressed?
well, I think earlier decades, it was, I was quiet for a long time. Like I said, for 10 years, I just thought I was alone. And then
Yeah.
Robert Monroe's book was good because it just, Robert was a scientist, and, he worked with cable TV. He was a pioneer with cable TV. And um, so it was good for him to have this happen to him because he's not some flaky guy. He was a prominent guy in the television industry. So he was taken very seriously.
Yeah.
So I was very glad that he came out and made it a little easier for other people to talk about this stuff. But it was a long time before I talked about it, and I just kept quiet. I didn't get involved with the government, like this CIA spy program, Stargate. You have Ingo Swann and Joe McMoneagle and some of these other people. Pat Price was amazing psychic. But me, I was like, God, I don't trust the government enough to get.
Yeah.
And look what happened to Pat Price. He died mysteriously because he could read the codes off the president's, nuclear carrying case there.
Yeah, I
from
wouldn't
halfway.
trust either.
Yeah. And they got worried, and he was talking to what's the church group that Tom Cruise
Oh,
belongs
the
to?
Scientologists.
Scientology. Pat Price was a Scientologist.
Ah.
And when the CIA found out that he was sharing their secret surveillance of the Russians and Chinese, psychic surveillance, they got real worried. And then next thing you know, he drops dead. So.
Oh, it's so sad to think about. And, I know a lot of people who work with the government in these sort of psychic or remote viewing types of things too. They're often, they're being asked to look at the worst things that humans do and the worst stuff, the worst things we've created. And I know there's a lot of PTSD. Even if you did trust the government, you'd be possibly putting yourself at great risk in many other ways as well. So.
Yeah, one of the places they have when they're training these CIA remote viewers, they give them coordinates and say, what do you see? And one of the first places they send them to is Auschwitz. So, they're like, oh, it's all death and this, I feel sick and I feel horrible. So you're right. Those vibes are still resonating there from all that screaming and death and everything. That's still there. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I didn't trust the government. I've just never wanted. I've always been a solo. I model myself off like the Superman character, pretty much.
I love that. You even have your outfit and everything.
Yeah.
It's cool though. I love that you can, it's these types of things, even when we're doing rites and rituals and sort of 3D reality, it's those types of things that make you step into character and step into belief and then step into power, therefore. And that's why you have it, right? So it's part of why, at least. And so I can imagine, when you're doing this astral travel out of body thing, having your accoutrements to make you know that you're powerful and that you're there to do certain things. I love it.
Yeah, it came very natural to me. Like I said, I saw the cartoon. I'm like, hey, that's me, and it's been that way for a long time now. And I don't think about it. It just,
you just get
and it's funny because I had all these powers when I was younger, but in the 3D world, I was always the smallest kid in class, and so I got beat up a lot. And after high school and a year of college, I moved back home, and someone said to me, "You go, hey Womack, there's a karate school uptown," and this is like 1978, so it's still, Bruce Lee was doing his movies were in the theaters, but it's still not like it is today. Still early on, and so I went uptown, and I had a friend in high school who, thank God, he befriended me. He was a black belt, and one. Back in those days, they were very few and far between, but he was a black belt and like the toughest kid in the school, and he, as long as he was my friend, it was kind of a protection from getting beat up, and he showed me how to spin the chucks, and so one day we go down to this new karate school, and I walk in there, and there's this little Bruce Lee guy sitting at a desk. He's like, "Oh, you want to learn martial arts?" Yeah, I do. Okay. And I didn't know at the time, but he was the most decorated martial artist in Korea. He was the champion of Korea, coming up the ranks as a kid, junior champion. And then when he turned 18, he was, nobody could beat him. He was just the most, he's like the Bruce Lee of Korea.
Wow.
And then he went into the army, had him train the ROK Koreans, the ROKs. They're the Navy SEALs of Korea, and they train him to be real badass, martial artist, hardcore. And so then Master Park said he always wanted to live on the plains of America. Probably had a past life, maybe. So him and his wife moved to Indiana. It's very flat there with the plains, and that's where he always wanted to be. So
Wow.
I hooked up with him and my life changed. And from that day forward, after I met him, I was never bullied again. I learned how to fight and carry myself and avoid those situations too. But if it came down to it, um, the first guy that bullied me and I fought back, I was like, oh my God,
Yes.
yes, this is awesome. So that's carried through, that stuck with me through today. I still stretch and do the exercises. I'll never do like jumping spinning kicks, which I loved so much. It's one of the greatest, like almost better than organ. That's
Yeah.
what Master Park said.
I can imagine that because I'm like, I want to flip through the air. So even when you're talking about flying, the few times I've been able to fly in my experiences, like this is the best feeling ever. Literally.
It is. Yeah, it is the best. And when you can take that and fly you fly around the earth, and it's pretty cool, and it's huge, but then you fly to the sun, because now and then I have the impulse, I need to go home. So I fly off in Earth orbit, I take off, flying, I fly to the sun.
Wow.
And I fly around this, over the sun, and it's, man, is it beautiful. And you're just going, wow. And the earth is big and immense, but then the sun, you're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So then you fly into the sun, and this whole time you hear this music. Instead of the alarm signal that I get, it's the music is calling. And I've come to find out that's your fingerprint. Everybody has a frequency. When you're born at a frequency.
Yes.
And you hear it as this beautiful music. It's like all these orchestras playing is wondrous. It's so beautiful. And you follow it into the sun, and you're in the sun, and it's just all this, floating energy. It's hard to describe, but just a kaleidoscope of this, and you're flying through this, and it's so beautiful. It's overwhelming. And after some time, you get to your little space in there. And as you're flying through there, you see that it's full. There's all these other souls that are there. And it's like we're all there, but part of us is at Earth. Not all of us is sent to Earth. Not all of our energy. We send part of our soul to inhabit the body on Earth. It doesn't take, or we have enough energy to run a few bodies at the same time on Earth, called aspects. It's kind of speeds up the process. You can do a few bodies at once. You can be a man in Africa, a woman in China, whatever. But yeah, the sun is full of all these other souls. And so you go to your little home space there, and your parents are there, and your brothers and sisters, and your siblings are all cycling through Earth School together. Like my family, my brothers and sisters, I would say I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
None of them are really, they're not really into the whole paranormal.
They're not aware yet.
Not yet. They're getting there.
Yeah.
So,
oh, wow. I love this. I encountered that feeling many times of feeling, and then sometimes actually saying out loud and crying about it, like, I want to go home. And people were like, well, your house is right over there. And I'm like, no, like, home. I don't think it's anywhere here. It doesn't feel like it's anywhere here. And it's powerful, that feeling. And I've gotten over it since then. I understand that I chose this, and that it's actually pretty short that we're here, and that we do go home. And so I've sort of let that go. But that feeling is intense. And when you said go to the sun, I was like, oh, is that where it is? Is that where home is? Because that feels really good, to feel like you can just go outside and like be in touch with home at least.
Yeah, so there's something when your parents create you, there's astral sex. They go, in 3D space we can't actually go inside each other, but spirits, you just right, you're like one glowing ball of light, and there's a flash, and then there's a baby soul. So I don't know if they're using the energy from that's in the sun, all that plasma. Um, that's what we're birthed. Our souls come from that too. I think
Yeah.
it's something like that. Yeah.
It's a similar process, just on a different level.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating. Well, I've kept you much longer than I said I would, and so I guess we can start to wrap things up. So I really would like to have you share with people once again. All the links are right below wherever they're watching, wherever they're listening, but just in case they just want to hear you, tell them, remind them where they can go to find more of your work, your books, all the shows that you do, what you're producing, your projects, and anything else that you have going on.
Okay, cool. Mindworldentertainment.com is my production company, and you can see my shows there and what platforms they're on. And then my author website is jonathanwomack.com. You'll find my books there, and a lot of interviews I've done. There's a press room with stuff going back 20 years. I published my first book in 2003. So yeah, it's coming up on 20 years. And my series, there's a website for that. It's called obeshow.com. That's a pretty cool one. And I guess, I also have Charles River Press. I wasn't 20 years ago, I was thinking, how am I going to break into this? Because I had thought about writing a book in like the early 80s about this guy who finds himself out of his body, and now the time isn't right. And then in 1999, my spirit guide right over my shoulder, clear as day, it's time.
It's time to write the book.
It's time. Oh, how do I write a book?
Yeah, how do we do that? I have very much relate to you.
So I wrote the book, and I'm thinking now, my goal is to get Ram on the big screen. It'd be a great action adventure, sort of out-of-body Superman.
Yeah.
Very cool. The book's very good. The book won the Hollywood Book Festival grand prize winner. Yeah, it won the whole thing.
That's a big deal.
They loved it. Yeah. So, the voice said, yeah, start writing. So then I published. Oh, that's right. I was writing the end. Oh my gosh. I was writing the end of the book where the climax takes place in Boston, where these terrorists, the bad guy is Osama bin Laden. I based him on. This was before Osama
any of that.
was,
yeah.
Yeah, before all this. So it was 2001, September 11th. And, and I've been researching the terrorist and following the terrorist, and because in the spirit world, you can kind of tune in on people's thoughts when you get like hate and anger and something, it's like, you can kind of follow it and like that.
Yeah.
But, September 11th, 2001, I'm writing this climactic ending where they attack Boston, and it's a lot worse than 9/11. I mean, they take out the entire city.
Wow.
Wiped off the face of the earth. So, I get up and I'm going to work. I'm driving into Boston, and I'm doing a show. I'm an IT media tech, and there's there's a medical show at the Heinz Convention Center at the Prudential Center. So Prudential's the tallest building in town, and I'm on my way there, and my girlfriend calls me and she says, something has happened. I'm like, oh, she said a plane just went into the tower, and I was just like, oh my God, they're here, and I knew it was coming. I didn't know where. I thought maybe Boston.
Yeah.
And they came through Boston. They came through Logan Airport, like on their way to, and
wow.
So I had to and it was so weird going, I went to the Prudential Center, and there's like 30 of us techs sitting around waiting because the doctors were all called to New York. The show was canceled, and we were expecting a plane to crash into the Prudential Center. We were just like, we didn't know. So I put the book down, and then after about a year, I'm like, okay, I got to finish writing it. It needs to come out and all that. But that was and my birthday is September 11th. So
Wow.
she's like, happy birthday. But guess what?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And you had just written like a parallel
A
version.
parallel
Yeah.
version.
That's
Yeah, it was crazy. So,
That's wild. Life is a wild, wild trip, and it's so wild that I can't handle it sometimes. I just like, it blows my mind over and over again. No matter how much I look at this stuff, experience this stuff, hear other people's stories, I'm still like, what?
yeah, I have a feeling you have some cool stories to share
I
too.
have some cool stories to share too. Not as cool as yours. I don't know. Some of them might be similar at least. But yeah, that's crazy. We have similar writing experiences at least too, where my guides were like, "All right, write the book," and then I'd write it, and then find out like in reality this actually exists. I'm like, oh. I literally did not know that, but I wrote it, and then it's also true, and so.
Very cool.
Yeah, that sort of like channeling through whatever form of truth. And then, my books, actually, that one that I'm talking about was my first fictional novel, and it's about that time period that we're discussing maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's I said to myself, like, wouldn't it be so cool? Because I had read all this, like, Graham Hancock and whatever, and I'm like, I love this. I love this idea. I know that it's true. Like, I know that it's real. It's not just someone's crazy idea. And it'd be so fun to be able to read about what it would have been like to live then, right? And what life could have been like, and, like, imagine that and read about it. And someone was like, well, why don't you write it then? And it literally, I was like, could I? And then it went bloop and just dropped into my head as a trilogy. And I was like, whoa.
Well, tell people again, what's your book and where can they get it?
That one's called Sine Curve of Aeons, Vitalis, and so it's a long title, and it's published under Lindsay Sharman now. So I used to publish under a pen name, Corey Sharman, and it's still listed under that, but you can't actually buy it. So some people are like, oh, it's like $70 now. I'm like, no, just find the copy that's a normal price. It's like $20, and it's Lindsay Sharman, my screen name here. And so that's the first one. The second one is also done. It's called Earth, A Trough in Time, because that was the golden age and this is the dark age. So second book is set in the modern time. And then I'm working on the third one now, which is in the future, and it's the last one, and it's going to be called Trinity's Genesis, A Future Once Removed. And that's the end of the trilogy. So that's what came to me years ago, and it's still unfolding. But similar in those sort of weird ways, where it's like, you have to write this now, and also you're going to write about things that you shouldn't know, but apparently do.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I'm going to pick up the first one and give it a read.
Thank you. Well, you can also read them in either order. They're not, because they're so far away in time, they connect, but you don't have to go in any sequence. So whichever one calls to you more, you can grab if you want to. But enough about me. I also always like to ask people before we say goodnight, what are your final thoughts or your final ideas or final words that you want to share with people before you go?
Well, let's see. I guess if you're having a hard time, your son was killed in a car wreck, for example, like the woman in Dartmouth, or whatever hard time you're going through, just know that it's supposed to be hard, and there's someone right here over your shoulder, and you can talk to them all the time. They hear you, they hear your thoughts. You can hear them if you just listen, and they're right there. And it's going to be when I was 9, I thought I couldn't take it. I asked God, I sat down and prayed on the toy box, take me back. I thought I could do this, and I cannot do it. And he said, no, keep going. And I kept going. So if I can make it, you can make it. Just hang in there and know that your guide is there and they love you. And yeah, that's my final thought.
I love that message to end on. How beautiful. And fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. And this has been your analog electric concentric dose of wisdom according to the OBE warrior, Jonathan Womack. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Awesome. Well, for every moment you spend within, you get a glimpse of eternity. You are that. There is no separation from you and that, except for the constructs of your mind. It's traveling out of body, discovering the mysteries of the past, creating your own award-winning novel or screenplay, picking up the next biggest idea and running with it, bringing enlightenment to the world. All of it is already there, waiting just inside. Go check it out. And until you do, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak. While the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can television filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets booed is sorcery. To recreate the God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Penio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me?
Run.
Sculpted from the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't meeting me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forge with Yggdrasil, branch down, try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter, that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber, kosher, wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the back to the savage. Them clasped hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. But nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking
Run.